We are really excited to talk about owning our power over 50. And I'm excited because I have a co host. I don't have to do this all alone. And so this is going to be a lot of fun. And this topic actually April came up with. So before we get into the topic, we're just going to take some time to introduce ourselves. So I'll begin. I'm Lachelle, also known as America's Supermom. I'm the mother of 15 children and I'm a mental health strategist. I went through 13 years of depression, 3 hospitalizations, and now I help executive women to align their brand with their identity to minimize stress, overwhelm, and burnout so that they can shine in the media. So I'm excited to be here today and glad to dive into this topic. And I'm going to yield the mic to you, April, to introduce yourself. Good morning.
Good morning. And first of all, thank you so much for allowing me to share my story and hopefully help others. My name is April Ogden. I have been a career coach for 15 plus years. And I'll talk about it a little later, but I acquired a disability as a young adult, and it was quite a journey. And so now I help underrepresented individuals, those professionals with disabilities, to navigate the entire workforce, all the phases. And I talk about from application all the way through retirement. And also, I work with veterans and just helping those of 40 plus. So, really just getting your foot, gain your financial balance. Realizing that your dream job doesn't have to suck the life out of you and how to make the most out of it.
I love that. And so you said that you're actually a coach in this area. And,
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of people who feel like, this is an area that they have under control. How do you get people comfortable to feel that they actually need a coach in this area?
Oh my goodness. Let me say this. I've had a lot of people who didn't realize that they needed a coach. And one of the reasons is because when we start talking about disability inclusion, a lot of people just honestly start thinking about the visible disabilities, all right? So maybe it's a person that uses a wheelchair, or maybe it's a person that's visually impaired and maybe they use a cane. Those are some of the immediate things that come to mind. But no one thinks about, okay, I just broke my foot. Or I have hypertension that's out of control, or I have diabetes out of control, and I got to get up and go to work every day. Or maybe I'm dealing with anxiety or depression, or I can't focus. And so, sharing with people, there are things we can do to protect you on the job, as well as when you're searching for new employment. And that's where the disability inclusion coaching comes in at. So that's why I listen to people tell their story, and it's like I said, some things they're not even thinking about. I'm like, no, there are protections in place and things you need to do, and that's where the coaching comes in at for that population. Oop, I think I lost you, Miss Lachelle.
Okay. Can
Okay,
you
there
hear
you
me
go.
now?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just getting to learn this technology because it looked like it was saying I was muted. And I'm like, here we are having
Yeah.
this conversation. I don't even know if I'm
That's okay.
live. Okay. So passion to prosperity is joining us. And she says, or, this could also be an issue with an autoimmune disorder as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think, I find just even as we age, there are things that
Mhm.
we encounter that we hadn't
Yes.
even anticipated. You can get asthma
Yes,
or
ma'am.
allergies, or,
Mhm.
you can't digest certain foods as you get older. And
Mhm.
so there's so many things that could change without the forethought. It
Mhm.
just happens and you're just kind of dealing with it.
Yes. Yeah.
So go ahead.
Now, I'm about to say, yeah, exactly everything you said. And then you have to also factor in 50 plus, 40 plus. Now you may be what I call that sandwich generation, where
Mhm.
you're trying to maintain your life, but also you may have children. You also may be a caretaker for your parents or a loved one. So you're sandwiched in between, and you're trying to balance your own life, going to work and make a living.
Yeah. So I think that is so true. And, that's one of the things that I'm excited for us to talk about
Mhm.
as we are dealing with being over 50. I think, me and my husband, we just celebrated our 33rd wedding
Wow.
anniversary.
Oh my goodness,
And
congrats.
thank you. And you're so focused on your marriage, you
Mhm,
don't even think that, oh, I have aging parents that I have to take care of,
mhm.
or in some of our cases we have adult children that still
Yes.
live at home. So, I'm excited for you to share a little
Okay.
bit of whatever you would like to share regarding your story,
Mhm.
as we go into discussing some of these challenges in
Yeah.
that age group, for today.
Mhm. Yeah, would love to just yeah, ready to get started.
All right. So, thank you so much, Passion to Prosperity. She says, happy anniversary.
Mm.
I'm not sure who's on the call. It says we have 3 viewers.
Okay.
So, we're new to this, guys. This is my first time
Mhm.
having a co-host. So, when you think about your story,
Mhm.
give us a little background
Okay.
how it got to where you are today, and
Yeah.
what does it do to help you stay motivated to help other people?
Wow. Okay, so my story actually started I was 18 and I'm 54 right now, but I was 18 years old and all of a sudden one day I woke up and I just blinked my eyes and I was like, "Okay, well, vision a little cloudy today." And I was like, "Maybe I should try." It was one of the popular eye drops back then, Visine, and I was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
maybe I should try, some Visine to clear it up." That didn't work, tried everything, and the vision began to decrease. And I went to a doctor and I was told that you have an open angle, an acute case of glaucoma. And my vision began to steady decline. I had just graduated high school. I was within my first semester at an HBCU, and I was just like ready to move forward in life and do all the things young people do at that age.
Mhm.
But it did not work out that way. I ended up having two eye surgeries, number of injections in the eyes due to trying to save the vision, which end up damaging the peripheral vision. And then I dealt with cataracts, and it was so on and so forth. And then I became a mother. And I was like, Lord have mercy. Well, what am I going to do now? Because I've been diagnosed with this disability, but I have 2 children and all I have is a high school diploma, and I just wanted to just be able to be self-sufficient financially. And so I ended up just going through a vision rehab program, which was very intense, and I had to learn how to do everything over from scratch. I mean, from how to walk independently by myself, from how to cook, clean, all of that. Well, then I took that just a step further, and I decided I wanna go to college. And remember, I started out with a high school diploma. A long story short, I fast forwarded, graduated with my master's degree in vocational rehabilitation counseling. And then I began to work in that field and helping people, talking with companies and like, hey, we got to do a little bit more to be inclusive within the workplace for people with disabilities. And how I came to be more so much of an advocate in teaching people like, hey, maybe what you're dealing with is not as severe, as what I dealt with, but these are things you need to consider, especially when you're 50 plus, because as we know, a lot of times people health changes. And again, I want people to stop thinking about the severe disability and start thinking about what am I dealing with? What do I have to go to the doctor with? How is that impacting my job? I'm 50 plus. What do I need to learn to protect myself? Because the body changes. Sometimes our mental health changes at 50 plus. We're dealing with a lot. And that's how I became just an advocate. I was an advocate before I turned 50, but now that I'm 50, I'm like, okay, now we're dealing with something else. The aging part of our health, what happens? And again, you're still trying to work and maintain that financial stability.
Yeah, I love that. Now, and that's first of all, just hats off to you for what a
Thank you.
brave thing to do. And, being young, I
Ooh,
can only imagine how a lot of your peers may not have even resonated with what you were saying,
Yes.
because, it wasn't impacting them. I think at that
Mhm.
age, I deal with that with my kids. If they're not going through it, they don't have
Mm.
the empathy to
Yes.
understand. So, but even still being young, how did you get people's attention? Because, a lot of times we think, oh, they're young, unexperienced, they don't really know what they're talking about.
I really had to develop those self-advocate skills, earlier, as a young adult, and I started noticing and it's sad to say, but when I was going through the vision rehab program, I started noticing that some people were getting more, assistance and support to be thriving with dealing with and coping with the disability, and others weren't. Some were being boxed into what others' expectations were, and I knew, and I said it earlier, but I knew I had more to do. I knew I wanted to do more, and I just believe that God put me on this earth to be able to help and support other people who are going through similar things. So I didn't let one person's no stop me. And I learned how to advocate for myself. And I teach people now this is how you need to advocate for yourself and don't let other people's expectations slow you down because you're here for a purpose. And regardless of what we're going through, we got to remember there's a purpose and a reason why we're here. So we got to forge forward and fulfill that purpose.
I love that, because I feel the same way with my depression that I went through.
Mhm.
A lot of it was me being an only child with an upbringing of really kind of being a perfectionist and a high achiever. And
Mm.
the thing that I was trying to run away from with that story ended up being my
Mhm.
biggest blessing and the purpose that I have today to be able to advocate for other women. So
Yes.
when you have people who are in the midst of going through whatever challenges, what advice do you give them around owning their story? Because I know for myself, I
Mhm.
tried to hide it. I tried to forget about it. I tried to be, renewed, refreshed, and not even thinking that it even
Yeah.
happened. But it wasn't until I fully embraced it and
Yeah.
accepted it that I was really free. I had the
Mhm.
freedom at that point. So, what advice do you give to other people who are in the midst of, working on that purpose and finding that purpose?
I would say, first of all, realize that what you're going through is a part of the journey, is not the destination. And so for me, going through that, it wasn't easy. I know I'm making it sound easier than what it is, but it wasn't easy. And I had to realize this is not my final destination. This is not where I'm going to end up. It may be where I'm starting out, but I'm determined to get to where I need to be. And just realizing that that's not a part of your destination. The other thing I would say, you got to develop a support system. And you kind of alluded to it earlier that, not having that not being able to have people to identify what you're going through, you gotta find people that can. And even if someone, they haven't been able to, they haven't gone through that, then maybe you find some people that are empathetic and will support you no matter what. And so we gotta look at our circle. We gotta look at the people we have in our circle, and can they support our vision? Because not everyone can support your vision because they may not even have a vision of their own. So find people that will support your vision and support you as you're going through it and realize that this is not your destination, it's just part of the journey.
I love that, and I definitely can resonate with the support system. I remember I used to do these Facebook Lives,
Mm,
and, I was doing a scripture every time I would do the live, and, it was me teaching everybody. And
mhm,
so one day I was praying about another scripture, and I believe God spoke to me and said, "Now, you believe that Jesus died on the cross to save the whole world,
mhm,
and he had 12 disciples, so what makes you think you could do it by yourself?"
mhm,
So for me, that really put a exclamation point on the
yeah,
power of collaboration.
mm,
But for people who are not used to being able to support other people or, admit their situation, what advice would you give them around finding that support system or finding people that are empathetic,
Yeah.
because for some people that's a hard step to take.
It is, and we live in this age of information. I would always just refer finding those right support groups. That I would start out, but that number one, that's free. It doesn't cost anything. You don't have to go to counseling session. Find a support group, look it up and see what are some online support groups and local support groups in your area. For some people, it may be church. For some people, it may be where I'm going to an online support group. Just find what are the resources out there to support you, to help you out through this because it may not always be easy. When I looked at my circle, there was no blueprint on how to deal with it, how to deal with having a disability, how to deal with it as a young mother. There was no blueprint out there. And so I developed a support group, but that was because someone recommended, someone believed in me, had that vision. It's like, hey, maybe you need to look for resources. And if you can't find them, think about starting a support group. So yeah, just this age of information that we're in, just really utilize that. I'm sorry, utilize that to identify some of the support groups in your area. And like I said, sometimes it's church or whatever background faith you have, just finding that there within that area.
Love that. And then, what comes to mind for me, I think, going through my own journey, there was a time that I was really angry about
Mm,
my situation. Why me? Why now? Why this?
yes.
That victim mentality. Did you ever go through that?
Oh
And if
my
you did,
goodness.
how did you get past?
I went through a deep, deep, deep depression at that early age of 18, and I was able, unfortunately, to mask it.
Mm,
And so a lot of people did not even know what I was going through. Um, I just honestly, I stayed in the home all the time. I would answer the phone, but I wouldn't go anywhere. I didn't, my mother was offering to help me because she knew, but I just didn't want to bother her because I wasn't able to accept it. And I went through all the stages of grief that they talk about. But yeah, I went through a very deep depression. And I tell people, especially when you're 50 plus, because you can't afford to, hide back and not participate. You got to get up, go to work every day, put on your best face and be able to earn a living. And so it's very hard, but yeah, definitely got to utilize the resources. But I definitely went through a very great depression.
mhm. And so how did you really get past that? Because I think, I definitely, resonate with the masking, I even have a book about that, okay?
Mm,
Because I went through, being all things to all people and
yeah.
thinking that that was the best way to handle it, because if I just didn't let other people know that it was going on, then in some ways it didn't exist. But, it was really eating me inside. I was the one with all the issues. So how did you get past that? What helped you to get to the point of not being a victim to helping other people?
Really, I started doing what I was saying earlier, my faith. I really started watching. Yeah, TBN is still out, but that was one of my go
Mhm.
tos. Yep, I was one of my go tos, and just really, I couldn't read the Bible. The technology wasn't out the way it is now. They had back then Bibles on tape, and you had to be a part of the Library of Congress system, which provides those type of audio Bibles for people who have print disabilities, what they call it. So I didn't qualify for that yet, but I really leaned into watching TBN and the scriptures and building my faith. And I knew I had my mother and my father there to support me, even though I didn't want to, what I thought at that time was bothering them. But I really just built up my faith and began to say, okay, this is not it. This is not my destination. This is my journey. And that's what I would say to people like, really. develop that support system. You got to find the right people, and sometimes that may be family and friends, and sometimes it may not be. And that's why I said that age of information, seeing what's in your local area online.
Yeah, that's really good. And so, I think this is just wonderful around um, being proactive. I
Hmm.
think sometimes we, fall into a lot of things when it's an emergency or it's survival mode. And so, what are some things that over 50 we
Hmm.
should be mindful of, even like, when it comes to our career? I had somebody who reached out to me with a app, and
Hmm.
they wanted me to collaborate with them, and they had this whole list of things that they wanted me to have access to do for their benefit. But I just put it in chat and I said, so what are some things I should be asking for? you
Hmm.
know? And so I went into chat, and I found all these things that I should be asking for as well,
Yep.
even though it was something that they were extending the opportunity for me on. And I sent back my request. I didn't hear anything from them. It
Mm.
was crickets until a couple months ago. They reached back out and then they offered to pay me. So I'm just
Wow.
like, there's so many things that we just don't know, when it
Yeah.
comes to aging,
Yeah.
that we miss out because of our lack of knowledge. So
Hmm.
what are some things that, maybe over 50 we should start being more mindful of?
I would say if you're over 50 and you are currently working or you're in between jobs and you're concerned, okay, as I age, I'm going to get older and maybe you will still be working. Number one, I would highly recommend you start reading the employee handbook. Everything you're going to need is going to be in that employee handbook. Now, a lot of people say, well, why read the employee handbook? Don't just sign off on it. Even if you're working right now, go back and take a look at your employee handbook because it's going to talk about all those support services there to help you if you are dealing with a health situation or maybe there's a family situation. Remember, I was saying earlier, some of us are called within that what I call the sandwich generation, whether it's family or maybe our children, adult children. So there are going to be support services within that. Number one, a lot of companies, I'm speaking, I know we're global, but within the United States, we have our EAP, Employee Assistance Program.
Mhm.
So we have that. And then we also have other services like Family Medical Leave Act, FMLA, where you could take time off. And again, I want people to not think about the severe disabilities, but I want people to start thinking about um, I broke my foot. I'm dealing with diabetes, hypertension. These things aren't controlled. Start thinking about all those little things where you having to take off of work and deal with medical issues. There are things to support your job, where you're not going to be afraid of losing your job, or maybe you got a family member that's going into surgery. Different type of programs. So read your employee handbook and understand what are your rights that will support you as you're aging and dealing with health or family issues.
No, that is a good point because I think a lot of people, they don't even know,
They
what
don't.
the employee handbook says. You tell them about an employee handbook. Well, what is that? Some
Mhm.
people don't even know because we
Yes.
can be in a situation when we start a job. I mean,
Yes.
a lot of us don't even remember what happened, especially if you've been working there for years. Right.
Yep.
And, or you've had job changes, you've moved up the ladder, and I mean that's something that just really could be lost in the shuffle,
Correct.
is an employee handbook. So I love that. That's great advice. Yeah.
Mhm.
So what is one piece of advice that you would give someone over 50, just
Mhm.
as a person? I know it
Yeah.
takes a lot of courage sometimes to speak up, to ask questions. Um, even just the whole dynamic of being a sandwich generation.
Mhm.
What is one quality that you feel has really helped be an anchor for you to deal with the ups and downs and twists and turns of life?
Yeah, don't give up. No, don't give up. And again, don't let a diagnosis. And I didn't talk about it, but a lot of people are dealing with cancer. And I remember my mother was dealing with cancer, and she would go in to get her treatments, and she would see people going, having to be going to work and dealing with that. But don't give up. Stay hopeful, and also stay inquisitive. Stay where, have that mindset where you want to learn a little bit more about it. Show up to rooms like this, just learn. Maybe it's not always executing a plan. Maybe it's just learning and listen to other people talk and get ideas. And then being a part of those support groups later where you can contribute. But yeah, just stay hopeful and stay inquisitive.
I love that. And then if anyone wants to work with you or
Yeah.
collaborate with you, what's the best way for them to connect?
I would say right now, Substack is a great way. You can message me here on Substack. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you can definitely, if you go to my profile here on Substack, I have my link within one of those, that section. I can't remember what it's called right now, but LinkedIn. And I talk more on LinkedIn about a professional with a disability and what you can do, how to protect yourself, different laws that are out there, especially within the United States. So Substack or LinkedIn, just ping me.
And then who is someone that you would like to be connected with, whether it's an organization or
Yeah.
someone in particular, especially in 2026?
Oh, yeah. I would love to be a part of the human resources area, just speaking with different people within human resources. Would love to be a part of speaking with the organization. You have employee resource groups. Would love to talk to them. Executive leaders would love to talk about developing training programs to help people, not just the employees, but also want to speak to these people managers and these leaders because they will create that environment for that workplace to support those individuals.
Love that. Well, this has been wonderful, April. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. And you guys have heard it here. If something that she says resonated with you, or you want to collaborate or have a more in depth dialogue around a lot of these topics, feel free to reach out to April.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, if you're listening to the replay or something, put them here in the chat and I'll be sure to forward those to her because I think this is always something that's pretty relevant is dealing with this age group over 50. I feel like I just blink my eyes and now I'm 55. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
I have a son who's going to be 36 on Sunday. And I just cannot believe it. It's like, I remember when I was 36 and
Mm.
where did the
Yeah.
time go? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yes. Oh
So
my.
I think it's definitely a relevant conversation on so many levels, whether you're even just being an employee, right? You
Mhm.
may have to deal with people that are in this age group, even if you're not in that age group.
Correct.
There's so many ways that we intersect with each other that I think it's an important conversation. So
Yes.
I wanna thank you so
You
much for
welcome.
co-hosting with me, and,
Thank you.
yeah, so I wanna yield the mic to you for any final words that you would like to share with everybody today.
Oh, thank you. Well, again, don't give up and stay inquisitive. You do those two things, you'll be fine.
Love that. Well, thank you guys so much for joining today. Thank you, Passion to Prosperity. We appreciate you
Yeah.
joining us. Feel free to reach out to April or myself. I will be posting a link that if you guys are interested in co hosting, I'm going to see if I can put that link up here. Feel free to sign up because I think it is a great opportunity for us to connect, for us to really expand our audiences for
Yes.
some of the topics that really can create a great impact in the marketplace. So, thank you guys so much for joining, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Bye,
All right.
everybody. Have
Bye-bye.
a great day.